Stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brill.
Man, I'm here with the vet, Mr. N. Griffin. And who in the world do we have on today? I don't know this guy.
Man, I am so excited. We got Nick Rucker, who I've known for a long time, and we'll get into that later. But Nick, man, it's good to have you on here. What you got, man, before I throw some pictures up here on you?
Oh, just glad to be here. It seems like the last time you and I were face-to-face talking, man, it's been a long time, like actual in person, you know what I mean? Like we've had some chats online and all that stuff, but they definitely, I'm glad to be here. And we've talked about this for a long time. So
yeah, I think it's been at least 10 years. It's 10 years and some change,
right,
to be honest. So hey, let me throw some pictures up here. So first of all, what do we got here?
Yeah, so I'm a musician. I've been a musician for probably 16 years or so now, off and on, and started out in just rock bands playing in my mom's basement with a bunch of buddies from high school. Then that kind of morphed into, I started playing on my own, and to now it's just, hey, I'm a recording artist and go out and do my thing on weekends whenever I have free time. And yeah, that's me at a show here in Omaha.
Awesome. So we got another picture of you here. Hey, I like that picture. What's going on there, man?
Brother. Dallas Cowboys. I'm ready to get my heart broke again this year.
Be careful on here, Nick.
Yeah.
We hold nothing back on Cowboy fans. It should be nothing but loyalty, my friend. So, man, it is so good to have you on here, and I'm excited. It makes my day. We've said this. We need to get Nick on here a long time, and we gone to some political side, and we said, let's just get him on. And I said, hey, I'm going to go somewhere to get him on after that. Let's just get him on now. And like, heck yeah, I'm glad. So I'm going to throw it over to the coach. Go ahead, coach.
Well, one of the things that interests me about Nick when I first saw that picture, I know you posted a week or so ago, was like, first of all, that's a Martin guitar. I can tell that from a distance. And that's my dad loved playing Martin. That's how I learned playing guitar, Nick, was my dad was in a bluegrass band when I was a kid. And when I was 7, 8 years old, he taught me how to play, acoustic guitar by the chords and stuff. And kind of the same thing with you. I was in high school. I was in the hair bands. And so we always had, band practice in the backyard and in the stores building. And then I actually was in a country band for a number of years and a blues band. And a few years ago, I was in a Christian rock band. So now, seeing you play that Martin, do you play any electric guitar? Do you play any, type of solo, or is it just pretty much that you sing and play?
Yeah, pretty much just rhythm player and sing. I do a few things, few lead parts here and there, stuff that I can figure out. But that Martin, I've been a Taylor guy for quite a while. And I felt like there was a point right after the military when I had some extra money that I graduated from buying these Alvarez guitars and all this stuff and upgraded to a Taylor 210E, which was like my first version of an electric, kind of a road warrior for me, became that. And then after that, I still want a Gibson J45 at some point, or an SJ200, but went into Guitar Center one day and saw that one and that Road series, and I was just like, wow, that, usually I'm not a visual, I'm more of a, hey, I have to pick it up if it sounds good, then I'll buy it, because sometimes like I'll buy the cheapest guitar if it sounds good.
Right.
They've got a Yamaha Nippon-Gaki, which was built in 1973, I believe, 72 or 73. Anyway, that sounds like way better than the other two guitars that I have that were probably twice as much, if not more. But yeah, those Martin guitars are hard to beat, especially for full sounding, just really vibrant, beautiful acoustics.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say was that when I saw that picture and you said that you're playing by yourself, now I know that's kind of that's intimidating, because I know at times that I played acoustic sets where I would play and this one other person would sing, and it was very intimidating just to have us two, especially for the singer. So how is it that it's just you, the mic, the guitar, and a crowd of people that most of you don't know, and you never know the crowd, what they're going to, if they're going to want a Merle Haggard type night, or they're going to want a George Strait type night, or maybe they want a Sweet Home Alabama night. You never know what you're getting. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, people get pretty persistent. That's for sure. I don't run into too many situations where I can't talk my way out of it. But there are plenty of times where you talk about like they want a Sweet Home Alabama night, or usually I know something in that realm. As far as like George Strait, I can go all night with George Strait. But you talk about older stuff, Merle Haggard, and I felt bad because I played a show with his son, Ben Haggard, a couple of years ago. And the fact that I didn't know any Merle Haggard songs while I was up there playing, I was like, ugh, I feel really bad.
Hey, I'll give you a little bit of advice. My dad was in a country band for years in bluegrass. And when I started playing on stage in these country bars, as you call them, he said, son, you can always learn Silver Wings. It's EAB. And if you know one Merle, if you get in a position that you need to know a Merle, everybody loves it and dances to it. Silver Wings.
Yeah. Definitely. I'll put that in my notes here.
But back to that guitar, I'll tell you what, you're right about the guitar, the visual on that guitar, the lines on that with the two tones. Yeah, man, that's absolutely beautiful. Because most of your Martins you see are just your standard Martin, as I call them, I don't know if you call them the sunburst color, but it's just that normal Martin color. For a number of years, I did play a Takamine and a Taylor, and I just couldn't afford a good Martin. And but my dad always had that Martin that he played in the bluegrass band, and every once in a while he'd let me touch it as a young kid, and I always thought, like I was touching Jimi Hendrix guitar at that time. But there's something about that sound of a Martin you just can't really beat.
Right. Yeah, those Takaminis, those are just right up there as well. I mean, as good, if not better, of a guitar as well. But yeah, as far as an electric, I bought an electric a few years ago. I was going through a Chevelle phase. And I thought I was going to be a 3-piece Chevelle style band, which died out real quick. But anyway, I went out and bought a real cheap Dean electric and a Fender amp, something. But I've since sold it, and I've got guitars that people just give me and stuff, and they're like, hey, so and so used to have this, they're not using it anymore, would you take it? And so I've got some hand-me-down stuff, some basses, and all this crazy stuff that I don't really ever use, but it's there if I need to record with it, let's just say that. So
well, I know that you and the vet have known each other for, like I said, years ago. Y'all were talking about it, and I really want to know your story, how you met each other, but I do want to know how in the world the musician and the vet know each other. I mean, come on now. The vet let me borrow his electric guitar for maybe 5-6 months because he wasn't playing it. I was rocking the house. I don't get it, vet.
Yeah. So this is the deal. I'll say, Nick, is I've always wanted to play the guitar, but I never have been able to do that. I will get on a 60-day kick and try to teach myself, and then I'll go 2 years without playing it. And I'll get on a 60-day kick again, and I'll learn a song or two, feel like I've done something great, and I have a soldier come and pick up the guitar and do circles around me, and I'm like, okay, I'm never picking the guitar up again, and things like that because I'm too embarrassed after that. And I got like 3 guitars. I mean, electric. I don't know what the hell I'd do with them. I try to learn, and I feel like I'm cool when I hold one. That's about it. Is I can't make it tune. I can play the Star Spangled Banner. I can play that. That's about it. Because you can ad-lib the heck out of that.
Yeah.
So and nobody's going to grade you on it. You're just like. So, so Coach, we're going to get to how we know each other, but I'm going to ask a couple of things real quick.
Okay.
On the music side, Nick, is what were your influences? That's the first thing I want to ask. And then I'll get to the next one here in a second.
So really, I don't know how it all came about really. My buddy Ben and I in high school, we used to be huge Boyz II Men fans. And so we would do these talent shows and we'd sing To the End of the Road by Boyz II Men, and still one of my favorites today. And basically we were doing that. And then that transcribed into Ben joined a band, a high school band that was called Flight. They were kind of a Christian rock band. And they had a tryout one day and asked me if I wanted to join. And I sang Every Morning by Sugar Ray. And I wasn't very good whatsoever. And so I don't blame them for not bringing me on. But after that, then really, I mean, kind of what happened was a bunch of us, there was just some, we grew up in a small country town, 500 people in Missouri. And there wasn't a lot else to do besides drink, I guess, and hang out and pick up bales of hay in the summertime and whatever else. But so we ultimately, all of us weird guys, I guess, got together in my mom's basement and probably were exposed to black mold quite a bit, but started playing System of a Down songs and all this Creed and everything else that was hot then, I guess. And then we had this town fair every summer would come through, and they would have the same band play every single year. And these guys, it was like pulling teeth trying to get us to get up there and play. Just because it was an old township and everybody's kind of stuck in their ways and they didn't really know if they trusted us enough or not. And so we got up there and played for, I think, 30 minutes and that was it. And then after that, it had its claws in, we'll say that. Then I started picking up the guitar at that point, started learning some Nirvana, stuff that was easy to play and sing. And I hadn't dove into Soundgarden yet at that point, but I was getting there. But then after a while, I joined the military, and then there was a break for quite a bit where I didn't really play as far as play shows and stuff. I'd take every deployment I went on, I bought a guitar while I was gone just so I would have it, and did that, and then played in it really wasn't until I guess I got out of the military, off active duty, that I was like, okay, I got to do this. I've got to do something to keep my time occupied and some way to make money quick too at the same time. And that wasn't the right answer. We'll just say that.
So you might remember when I was at Fort Bragg, after I met you, I would run a lot. I ran a lot because my wife was still at Fort Campbell and things of that nature. And, but I would listen to Chris Cornell when I ran, and I'd listen to you, and I'd listen to a hometown favorite that's here, that a guy named Cole Wetzel. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not, but he's from our hometown. He's big. John Brent and I went to school with his mom and things of that nature. Okay. So I would tell you, he's huge here. Everybody they love him, but I will tell you this: when we go on road trips, we'll listen, and my iPod goes through things, and my wife doesn't like it. And when Cole Wetzel comes on, this is what she'll say. She goes, "He ain't no Nick Rucker." And it's exactly what she says, and because she really likes. She goes, "Nick is easy to listen to. He's so easy to listen to. It's soothing. He doesn't have a nasally voice or none of this other stuff. You can just get picked right into it." And I agree, it's very good on that part. So first, I wanted to tell you that story. So the other thing I will say is you released like Nick Rucker country, and then you released some other songs, and I have a few of my favorites. And Coach, I apologize. You got something here on this part here?
Well, no, I do have a question. Because there is such an influence difference there, from System of a Down all the way. So if I go to a Nick Rucker show, what is two or three songs that Nick likes to play that I'm going to hear at a Nick Rucker show?
All right. So cover wise, some Jason Isbell, Cover Me Up. That's one of my favorite ones to play live. Tennessee Whiskey. And then the crowd favorite, and what always gets me kind of pumped up, is Friends in Low Places, Garth Brooks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those are, but if I'm talking like throwing in some rock in there, I play some Whitesnake when I'm at a show. I'll play Here I Go Again. I'm all over the board. It just depends on where I'm at. I can kind of morph to the crowd. Unless it's just R&B, then I'm out. So
yeah, well, it's kind of like when I was thinking about that. It's like, I'm sure you've heard of Aaron Lewis, the singer of Stain. If you listen to an hour of him on, say, YouTube, I mean, you hear everything from, I mean, you could just imagine, from country to rock to even pop, that he does his own style with. And I think that's very cool when you're by yourself on stage, to throw a Billie Jean in, like Chris Cornell did. And some of the Aaron Lewis throws in some stuff that you'd never think that Aaron Lewis would sing, but the crowd knows those things and they love it. So I always like to see that.
Oh yeah, especially, it's funny you bring up Aaron Lewis, because he was like my huge motivator of music. The first motivation I ever got to pick up a guitar and play on stage was because I saw Aaron Lewis in the video for Outside, playing on stage just by himself, playing that song. And I was like, man, I want to do that, but I just don't know how. And so I used to play it more often. It's kind of a downer song for where I play most of the times, but that was Aaron Lewis was the reason I got my eyebrow pierced whenever I was in high school. So
so I got a question. What is your favorite song that you produced out of there? What is your favorite song you like to play?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would have to say This Town is probably my favorite. Michael and I put a lot of time into that one, and just getting it produced, and just the backstory. I've got a buddy here who has, well, at one point it was his bedroom. We just went and recorded in his bedroom, and now he's got a house in his basement and all this stuff. And so I go over there and record. And I mean, it takes us 6 months to do a song. And whereas, just to compare it to, like, whenever you walk into a professional studio, it could take a week. That's a pretty good turnaround. Whenever I was recording with Dan in St. Louis. So this is just, we're feeling our way through this music recording process. And it may take us, I may sing that same song 150 to 200 times before we get to the end of it. And I'm like, I never want to see this song again, or hear it. But at this point, This Town was like, sit down, write it. And that's funny. That song is not even about anything I experienced. It's about something my friend experienced in high school that it's just always been kind of like funny between us, an inside joke between the two of us. And now looking back, it's like, well, now it's a song, and he gets it and I get it, but nobody else will ever get it. So
I got a few of the favorites on there. I like Superman. I like This Town. I like Don't You Wanna. There's not one of them I really don't like. I like Because of You. After reading this, I think they're all good. And I don't remember the name of the album that majority of those are on. There's one there's a good bit of them on there.
After Everything. Yeah.
After Everything. That's it. And I like all of them on there. I like the Nick Rucker Country, but I really like After Everything. Everything that's on there. Anyway. Yeah. So how we know each other, man. So we're going to talk that real quick. And man, we got a young man that comes to Fort Riley, Kansas, that's beginning his military career, to be honest. And you got another guy that's, most would say, is at the tail end of his career, even though I did another damn 10 years, but would be at the tail end of his career at Fort Riley, Kansas. Yeah. And I was, at the time, I was the battalion sergeant major, and you had just arrived to, I believe, First Maintenance Company as a young mechanic.
Yep. Yeah. So I just, I got there. They were in the field. First Maintenance was in the field, getting ready to go to Iraq. And I had the first person I met, and I don't know if you remember Clayton Bourne or not. He was in the parking lot, and recently, he had third-degree burns on his legs from trying to jump over a bonfire. So he wasn't in the field with everybody else. He was the first person I met. And then I think Sergeant Hand, Jeremiah Hand, he was he took me over, walked me over to your guys' building, which was, of course, across I think that's First Division, right? No, that's not First Division. I can't remember. Anyway, you're on the other side. You and Colonel Silverstein.
Yep.
I walked over, or Iron Man, right? Because half of his body was made of iron at that point, steel.
Yep.
Yeah, I walked up there and into your office, and I was nervous as hell. I just remember that was my first experience in the big army, and going over and walking into your office, and I'm like, and to this day, there's never been another sergeant major that's ever done that's ever had me come in their office and meet them whenever I first get to the unit. So that's something that you set yourself apart. Yeah, you set yourself apart doing that, and then walked in there, and I didn't know what to do. I was still trying to figure out the Army at that point. I'm sure I wish I could go back and see a video of how this all went down, because I'm sure I was like, sit down, stand up. I don't know what to do. But then you said, well, hopefully you're ready to go to Iraq, because that's where we're going here in a month. And I was like, I'm not at all.
There was no need sugarcoating that. I hate to say that. When you see so one thing I'll say, Nick, is on that is I had this rule. I had a rule when I was first sergeant. I will see every soldier that day, and they will understand where I've come from. And I had that rule, and I had nothing will sit in my office more than 24 hours. Those are 2 rules I had, and I carried them all the way through me my whole career. And it's a shame because if you look a soldier now when they first arrive, they understand where you're coming from, and they're willing to do things for you. Not that I need people to do things for me. I just need them to be part of the team, And what a lot of people don't know is even after Colonel Silverstein, I had Colonel Dismer. He even made the officers come over. He said, "Why are you seeing me if you hadn't seen the sergeant major yet?" And I love that because actually that's some truth to that. It should be that way, so they know how to approach the colonel. But anyway, so we coach. We're in the same unit together, and we was during the time that we was shoving people downrange. I'm talking. We would train them as fast as possible and get them downrange as fast as possible. That was really what we were doing. And his unit was about to go downrange. And I do believe your first sergeant was First Sergeant Trunk, and you had Captain Fisk.
Yep. Captain Fisk, which is funny because both deployments I went on, he was there. We were there at the same time. Just randomly ran into him in Afghanistan whenever we were over there, Captain Fisk. But yeah, First Sergeant Trunk, and it was crazy. It was probably one of the most just fall through the cracks kind of situations. I get to that unit and they're in the field. We deploy, and I kind of meet some people in the process that are in my shop on the way over, and in the process of basically loading up our whole motor pool to send it to Iraq. And get there, and within the first day, they're wanting somebody to go on a duty to work for the command sergeant major that was over us, the Dwight H. Williams, from Hunter Army Airfield, and he basically needed a carpenter, and so I never saw first maintenance the whole year I was there, besides in passing, I guess. But it was just.
So one thing I will say, Coach, is that. The headquarters, which I was at, went deployed, and then they deployed behind us. And they were 15 miles south of me, but I couldn't have them in my unit because the big army says these is who belongs to you when you're down in Iraq. I had a different maintenance company out of Arizona that was underneath. They were a good maintenance company. But I talked to your first sergeant commander all the time. Some ironic things about your commander, he wound up being the ING as a lieutenant colonel in my last job for my general. And as a sergeant major, I would see him all the time. And then was that in Ohio? No, that was in Detroit.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, up at TechCom. And then your first sergeant, Trunk, when my son came to Fort Riley, Kansas, he reeled him in and kind of got him around a little bit. And the Army is small. People don't realize that. You'll run into people all over the place. But so we pushed you out to Iraq, and then later – and you wind up working for Sergeant Major Williams down there because what a lot of people don't know is, was it a natural fire or did it take incoming when it burnt down their headquarters?
I always heard it was wiring issues. Everything was just so old and it was I'm sure KBR, whoever was maintaining the electrical, probably didn't do the best job. They didn't care. But I don't think it was incoming. That's so funny you bring that up, because I totally forgot all about that fire that took place and burnt everything that we had built basically in that battalion area, burn it to the ground, and we had to start over from scratch in a new building. Then Sergeant Major had even bigger ideas then at that point.
I'm quite sure. So it kept him busy down there being a carpenter for sure. And then later you wind up going to Afghanistan. Is that correct? And such.
Yeah.
And were you with First Maintenance when you went to Afghanistan, or were you with the Guard, or who was you with?
I was with. So what happened was, got back to Fort Riley and got interpost transfer over to Bravo Company 701st. And so my time at Fort Riley started over again whenever that happened. And so ultimately what was going to happen was I think First Maintenance disbanded or something, or was in the process, or something was going on. They were kicking us all out as soon as we got back from Iraq. But went over to the 701st, got in with them, re-enlisted to go to Afghanistan in order to solidify that I could go. And then so whenever I got over there, I was with Bravo Company 701st from Fort Riley. Yeah.
So crazy story. 701st was in Germany, and I was a first sergeant over there and I was stationed there for 5 years. My wife was over there. We inactivated it in Germany and moved it over to Fort Riley, Kansas. I was sitting in as a sergeant major at the time. My wife is the only 701st Wine Princess to ever been nominated in Germany, and she is the 701st Wine Princess by order of the battalion commander because of her knowledge. Yes. And then 701st eventually did deactivate. And unfortunately, because that's a great unit, is just some pretty cool stuff. So we've known each other a good while. I mean, it's gone a long way back, and it's been, I'm thinking of the dates. It's been 11 years or some change around that time. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I would have never thought that. And man, there's a whole lot of things that's happened during that time. And but real quick, I do got to pause. I got to throw a little quick commercial here. And so what I'll say is, let me find my stuff here. Anybody want anything from the coach and the vet is how it supports us here? Come to our shop, come buy a few things. But more importantly, I'm going to throw it out to Nick Rucker here. Let me get this hat off here. And let's see if you can't get yourself one of these time caps here. How do you get it, Nick? Tell them how you get it.
So you can go, if you go on Facebook to Nick Rucker author, there is a link there that will take you to the Dorrance publishing page, my publisher in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or you can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble website, wherever. Just Google it. It'll pop up. Nick Rucker time cap.
Yeah. Hey, we're in September, guys. Go out and buy you about 20 of them, put them in stocking stuffers and everything else. Nick's got a kid to feed. Y'all need to get that going, and then go on iTunes and buy all his stuff like 3 times. I mean, come on now, share that stuff. So that's the part I want to talk there. And then we're going to throw it back over because the advertisement's done. Since we talked about the book, we'll throw it back over to the coach.
Well, one of the things I'm learning, Nick and Vet, is I'm learning these terms that, a civilian like myself has never heard. Downrange. When I first started, I heard that, I thought we were about to go to the gun range. And then the vet one time came to my house and we recorded, and he said, we're at the jump talk. I'm like, what is the jump talk? So I'm having to learn, all these great terms that y'all know. So hearing the stories and the Bravo this and all that, it's like a different language. But first and foremost, the vet knows I have such respect for the people in the military. It's one of the things that I get to do as a history teacher and government teacher, is to teach my students the utmost respect that you have for people when you walk out and you see someone with that veteran hat on, or you see someone that that served. Is any kind of rights and freedoms that you have, it comes from guys like you. And so just from someone like myself, that's just an old coach and guitar player that just loves to be an American, man. Thanks so much. Now on to the book. There's one of the things that when I actually went on Amazon and read, Nick, earlier, the snapshot that it gave. And one of the things that I did not know about the book was that it says in there that this was lifted straight from a journal. So that was what I really wanted to first ask you. Did you keep this journal when you were in Iraq? Did you keep it when you were in Afghanistan? Was it one that you kept for, in between? Give us the background of, this journal turning in this book.
Yeah. So ultimately it was, it started on my computer. It was just me like, hey, my day to day, what was going on in Iraq. And a lot of it was like, just whenever I got there, I remember the second or third day we got mortared. And so I didn't understand what was going on, ultimately. And I had a guy with me in my room, who had been, it was like his third deployment, something like that. And he's just like, hey man, calm down. Everything's fine. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to talk to this guy about my emotions. So, so I'm going to talk to my computer about my emotions. And so, started making notes of daily stuff that was going on. And one of the most devastating things that happened was, and I lost about half of them, was whenever I was getting ready to go on leave for Thanksgiving, go back home to Missouri. My computer fell off of my bunk and landed on its top, and it would never turn back on again. And so I had emailed up to a point, the stuff that I had written to my aunt in California, who was curious to see what was going on. And so I had all the journal entries up to a point, but half of them are missing because I was clumsy and dropped my computer, which is sad because I know that there was quite a few things in there that I can remember, but I can't remember in grave detail as to like write them now. What was actually, what it was like to physically be there, experiencing what I was experiencing. So yeah, and then Afghanistan was. I still have the book. It's literally in a tote back here. It's just an old writer's book that I wrote every single day and try to make it a point to, hey, write every single day, even if it seems stupid, just do it. And so there's a lot that was cut out just because it's like, you guys don't need to know whenever I go to the bathroom and and all that stuff. But
well, one of the things, as I've never been in the military, but you see movies and you hear stories, and and my dad was in, my granddad was in, so you hear the stories. I always wonder when you're in Iraq or you're in Afghanistan, where there's actually people trying to hurt you, and you're riding, and you, like you said, you couldn't talk to this guy. You had to put your emotions into the computer because we don't understand. We're over here doing Monday morning quarterback when we hear about a missile attack or we hear about an advancement from here. But to live in that, and you have to, somehow you're leaving Kansas or Missouri, and you're like, I'm living over here and anything can happen to me. I don't think those are feelings that most Americans have ever dealt with unless you're in the military. So, and I did say in the book that you were talking about some of those things of coming back and having to come back into normal life. I mean, is it a switch that goes on when you're there and a switch that comes off? That sounds too easy. How does that actually work?
I wish it was. And what I can equate it to is you're in Iraq one day and you have one option for deodorant to buy, and you're in the United States the next day and there's 70 options of deodorant to buy. And you're like, why does it need to be like this? And so it's like, it's kind of like that. And even on a social level with everybody that I would be talking to, family, friends, and all that, getting pulled in all these different directions, trying to make the right decision on who to interact with and whose feelings are going to get hurt and all this stuff. And when you really, in reality, are just like, okay, I need some space. And I need one person, and that was my mom at the time, to chauffeur me around and hang out and talk and all that stuff. But yeah, I wish there was a switch that was easily flipped because, and I wish it's almost like the civilian side almost needs a class on how to welcome somebody back into the community that's been, gone for this long and all that, just so that they understand, they're going to go through a transition period. It's going to be a situation where there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong at all, but they just need some space. So, and to be probably, I think the thing that like probably bothered me the most was you want to talk about it. You want to come back from a deployment and talk about things that happened. And nobody really asks, not as much as you would think. Everybody always asks that classic, "Hey, did you get to kill anybody?" question, which 9 times out of 10 is always a no. We're not over there doing that every single day. Nobody is really. Some, choice people are, but that's just, I think, talking to people about like, hey, this is what it was like. It was extremely stressful for a very long time. And now I'm trying to wind down, and it's hard to do without a good coach there to help you out for real, which was my mom coming back. So,
well, before I know the vet has some questions, but I do want to ask one more. It was a little bit more in detail that you talked about. Was you're just kind of talking about that. Now you came back and how you had to deal with that. You had some issues that you had to deal with coming back. And I've seen that you work with Guitars for Veterans. You've worked with other people. One of the things that coming back, dealing with that, and you had to battle alcoholism yourself, there's a lot of soldiers that have issues that come back. And like you said, we as a society here, as civilians want to know, like you said, were you in a firefight? Did you shoot somebody? But that's not the real issues that a lot of soldiers come back with. They come back with emotional, as we call real PTSD, and come back with situations and how did you deal with it, good and bad, and how would you help somebody else that we know now that say overseas that come back? How can we help them better?
It's kind of funny that you bring that up. Excuse me, because the other day I posted about Afghanistan and somebody had made the comment, how can we better help? And it's somebody that I work with, and I was just kind of like, nobody's ever asked that. So here we are. Now I have to answer it. And so in all reality, I'm glad it was said, because to me, it was like, well, enough has been done. It's not so much that. And I think it's, I think educating people on whenever people return, and I think I equate it to, I wish more people that were veterans were more involved with other people that are veterans, because every time that I see an older guy that's got a veterans Vietnam or whatever hat on, it's just like, oh, I feel something that I wouldn't feel just by seeing an older guy that are just in passing. You feel a sense of closeness to them that, man, I probably haven't walked in your shoes, but I have a good understanding of where you're at. And so that's where it just always, to me, always is a point of make us stopping and saying, hey, how are you? Just wanted to say thank you, and just get them talking. That to me made a world of difference, was just there's plenty of veterans. I mean, Sergeant Major knows from our deployment to Iraq, we've had 12 or 13 people that have passed away since we got back, that were either suicides or just, car accidents, whatever it may be. And there's a few of those people that I was pretty close with, that I felt kind of bad at one point whenever one of them came to one of my shows. I'll just tell you the story. It came to the show and I hadn't talked to him in quite a while. And I sat at the bar with him, and this was when I didn't drink. And we talked a little bit. And he just, like most veterans get, they grow a beard and they look like the veteran that everybody sees in movies that got out of service. And so we sat there and talked, and I was just like, man, I'm so glad we reconnected, because I just feel like there's a handful of people in this world that understand what happened for a year, and what we experienced, and you're one of them. And I'm glad that we got to go, I'm glad we got to link back up, and we had plans to link back up even more. And then he passed away in a car accident, which was very unfortunate. But it was just situations like that where I think just doing my part and putting myself out there to work with these guys or meet these guys and hear their stories, it's just, to me, it's motivating. I like to hear those old war stories from Vietnam, and I don't think there's enough kids today that do. I remember being a kid and wanting to hear from my dad his Desert Storm stories, and like those were the questions I was always like asking, was like, hey, what was it like seeing camels and all this crazy stuff that he got to do that I saw in pictures. So I just think that and to come full circle to answer that question, it just comes down to just talk to people, guys that are veterans. Hey, what happened? I mean, I don't and I guess from a civilian standpoint, just come at it as a approach of not understanding, and wanting to understand better of what you went through in Vietnam, because I always relate it to a book. I always relate it to Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried, and reading that book a million times and saying that, like, I don't understand everything, like, the fall of Saigon and everything that you guys went through in Vietnam. But, I have read this book and I have an idea. Maybe you could help me out. That's the kind of questions that I'm asking. And so I think most guys that are even Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, we want to talk about it. You just got to get through that kind of hard-nosed whatever we're trying to come off as right out of the gate, and get through to that. There's a cookie in the middle. There's something in there.
So Nick, I agree. I want to throw one thing out, as you talked about earlier. I can tell you that every one of my deployments, now I came home with kids sitting at the house, and I can say you built up a whole year what your expectation of what when you get back home is. Every soldier or troop does that, Sailor Marine. Whatever that is, they're expecting that. And they're expecting this romantic moment with the missus, and it better be all they thought about for a whole year, and with their kids or no kids, whatever it is. But I can tell you, every deployment I came on, by the time I got to the house and within an hour, I was so overwhelmed to be around. I felt like I was outside looking in my family every time. And that's not, nobody was bad. Nobody was doing anything wrong. The kids just wanted to be around me. I wanted to be around them, but I felt like I was a guest. And that's, I've hardly ever said that. And that it's just something that what you said kind of made me trigger that. Think about that, is you kind of feel like you're the outsider walking in, and it just takes time. And I remember coming back from Iraq in OIF2 going, I just want to go back. I don't know why I want to go back, but I wanted to go back. And I think every soldier deals with that, in some shape, form, fashion. We're going to move on, though. We're going to talk about something else. I got a couple of things got to throw in here, but we're going to talk just you was at Sharana, am I correct, in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Yep.
So Coach, one thing about Sharana, there was 3 bases close to each other: Sharana, Shank, and Salerno. Bob Shank took incoming every freaking night because we moved the damn artillery out of there like some stupid heroes. Like that was a smart idea. So they artilleried the heck out of them every night. I'm not talking a little bit. I've got several people that I know that got wounded there. I know a chaplain that got wounded. I got a former lieutenant of mine got wounded there. And that's just a rough place. And they were all 3 real close to each other. And my whole theory the whole time was, why don't we just move freaking Shank to Sharana and call it a day? Because it was a little bit better than, and I think he had an airfield there, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's where most people flew into, and then got divvied up to the smaller FOBs like Tillman and all that stuff.
So what are your thoughts on how we withdrew out of Afghanistan? Do you and such? I have my personal feelings, and I've talked about it 3 podcasts now. But I was just curious what your thoughts are, and I'll throw it out there if you want me to. But what are your thoughts on it, Nick?
I was pretty disappointed in how all this went down. I just even thinking about, like, if I was going to hand over an armament shop to another E6, how I wouldn't just leave it there and walk out and say, "Oh, you got it. Okay, good luck." That's how I thought about that. And I was like, why would we treat that, any different in a large base like this, in Kabul or Bagram or wherever, it is. I mean, we turn over the whole country. So it's all of these bases. And then all these weapons and stuff. And now, we got a kid coming back this Friday who was killed over there to Omaha, and the simple fact that and maybe I was never in a leadership position like you were over there, making those hard decisions on where the soldiers need to be and how to move, logistics wise, how to move everybody around. But to me, it never made sense that we had guys intermingled with the crowds out in front of of that base or outside of that gate. And why, it didn't make any sense. We had 5,000 guys over there that were not full, not engaged in something, we perimeter guard, whatever it is. It's like, I could have built that map and set that up pretty easily and not had, our male and female, both Marines out intertwined with the locals. So to say I was disappointed is kind of an understatement. I've kind of worked through it the past few days. There was a few days where I had a good cry and was very upset about it, seeing these 20-year-olds killed, some of them that were just babies whenever Afghanistan kicked off. It didn't make any sense why we didn't have seasoned veterans who have been doing this for the past 20 years over there that know how to control these kind of crowds. Like, why are we sending fresh bodies in there to give them somebody that has no idea what's really going on? I mean, there's one thing to know what it looks like in the rule book, and then there's another, like, to see it on the field. It's a little bit different. And so yeah, I was very disappointed and sad and upset that these kids had to get killed to do whatever it is what we accomplished. I mean, I don't even know. Like, every time they talk about, we have all these Americans over there and these Americans and these, and it's like, who are they? Like, who are these Americans that are staying over there? That at some point there had to have been somebody saying, hey, if you don't get out now, you're not going to get out. Obviously somebody's making a decision to stay there.
I'll say this on that, Nick, is
okay.
I think with that, and I'm going to talk about the youth of all this here in a second, but I'll say, with that, I think because they put out so many messages saying this is hot, and it wasn't hot when they put them out, that kind of the old saying, if every email is important, then none of them is important. And I think we fell in that crisis right there. They said they put out 19 messages since March. But if you put one out in March and saying this is hot, this is hot, this is hot, and then you realize it's not that hot, do you listen to the rest of them? And I think you're in that predicament. That's one facet of it. And the second facet is some of them are willing to move out and they're married into some families, but they're not willing to leave their family behind. And that's a major issue. But kind of the point you brought, these are 20-year-olds, and why do we not have expertise down there? A seasoned platoon that's had a couple of deployments on their belts, things of that nature. Those are great questions that should be asked, and especially since we couldn't have over 2,500 until it went to chaos, and then we moved to 6,500 real quick. We should have just moved to 6,500 to begin with, and it would have been chaos. Just just as a tactical aspect.
Yeah.
But back here in America, what is sad. And I got a piece coming out on Thursday that we've kind of already forgotten about it in America, in the media cycle and the administration and things of that nature. They've already moved on overall on this. We have 13 people that are still going through the procedure of being laid to rest finally. And we have businesses that are placing 13 beers out there showing more respect for individuals that can't even drink beer that died for their nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's ironic in a lot of ways, is businesses were willing to put those out there for these 13 people. And my hat's off to those businesses, because I got nothing respect for them and I got nothing respect for those 13. But there's a lot of me that says this didn't even have to be this way. And I don't want to go down all that lane part right there, but it's just a shame that these businesses are holding it at a higher character than some of the media is right now because they've moved on, and these 13 and these businesses have not. So I'll throw it out there. And but go ahead.
That's extremely disappointing. And the circus that they caused last year with the protests and everything else. And I was a part of that too. It's just like being in the National Guard. Every time something pops off, you get called up. And was at the Capitol building in Lincoln with a loaded M16. It was just like, well, here we are back in Afghanistan.
So I'll say, Nick, my son, who's a lieutenant, his very first job in the National Guard after he got there was called to go to Houston and defend against riot control. And I'm like, that's the first job of a platoon leader? That is not a freaking cool job to have as a lieutenant. You want a seasoned guy in there for that. You don't want, so that was his first job.
Oh yeah. And I'm sitting down where our governor comes through and walks into the Capitol building with, I think 12 or 13 guys. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I have no idea. Like, I had training 3 years ago on how to control a riot. And this isn't how it's going. So I'm like, all right, let's just stay calm and, we'll let the state troopers handle it and all this stuff. Anyway, but it just, America's values are in the wrong place right now. I feel like there was a lot of attention thrown towards things that didn't need the respect and the attention they got. And then there's a lot of stuff that now we're sitting here and like, oh, how can we sweep this under the rug as quickly as possible and move on with the COVID stuff that's going on? And so that's where, and to not compare, apples to apples or whatever it may be. It's just, America needs to like sit back and say, what am I really upset about? For one, like what is affecting me on a daily basis that's got me in such an uproar that, I need to go out and cause protests or whatever it may be. Protest all you want. I don't care as long as it's peaceful. But then it's like whenever you sit back and you're not upset about maybe some kids or didn't, even know that a war was still going on until like a couple weeks ago. Like, to me, it's just like it has to happen in the United States in order for you to understand that there's people that are, raising their right hand and going overseas. No, we don't want that to happen here. So I don't know. There's a lot of mixed emotions on that. And like where I just see people talk on Facebook and whatever it may be. And I never comment, but I get kind of fired up every once in a while. And I'll talk to Leslie or somebody about it. But there's just, you see everybody that I know from back home is the kind of person that's going to put 13 beers out on a table. And they're going to be that kind of crowd of people. Now that I moved to Omaha, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different living in a city. And that's been a very difficult for me in some aspects. So, Coach, what do you think?
Well, there's a couple of things that's been really bothering me for the last week and a half is being a coach. You always, when you make mistakes or you lose a game or something happens, of course, you don't equate it to the same as you guys. You're talking about lives here. But, you have to take responsibility as a coach to say, I made the wrong call. I should have ran the ball more. I shouldn't have had that defense called. We lost the game and the buck stops with me. And I don't say, but the coach that was here before that didn't put this team together, he's the more at fault than me. And I think what you need to have in this country, which we don't have, is personal responsibility, not just from the leadership that we have at the top, but also from families that are going on across this country. Is personal responsibility has gone out the window. One of the things that I've seen that over the last year and a half that has really bothered me is what we'll do is we'll put heroes in places that aren't real heroes. We had people that were criminals that actually were murdered. And yes, we know they were murdered, but we put them as a hero. And then you have these guys that literally lost their lives protecting not only the last 20 years of interest that we had after 9/11, that's why we were there, but also protecting people that were trying to have women's rights, to actually have, rights to have normal people. And the same people that were commenting about the George Floyd and commenting about protests from the Capitol went silent for a week, never said a word about the 13, never said a word about these heroes, never even posted a picture of American flag. And I do not get where it comes is how can we point to this as being a hero, and when we have real heroes that died last week? It's blown me away, guys. It really has.
Yeah.
So, Coach, real quick, we got about 5 minutes, and I got to say this one thing about Nick Rucker before we get out of here is Nick Rucker promised me for a long time that he would sing at my retirement party, and I had to call you off, Nick. I really did, because I could not stand to have you down here. There'd only be there'd be like 10 people here. I would have felt bad. I just retired back home, and I said, "There's no way I can have Nick Rucker with just 10 people. It would be embarrassing. I could not let the young man down like that." I just hit my 22nd anniversary, but if you're still singing on my 25th, I'll have you down here in a heartbeat. And I'll get you down here, Leslie and the boy, down here in a heartbeat. Love to have you down here, and we'll give you. The coach will tell you it's only about 5 minutes, but I'll give you the 5-minute tour of town and everything. Hopefully, I can get more people down here. And
it sounds like our hometown might be a little bit bigger. When we grew up a vet with 3,000 people in Pittsburgh, he's talking about 500. I mean,
whole high school, 75 kids. Yeah. So,
wow. So, man, it is good to have you on here, and I've always been very impressed. I've followed you since over 12 years ago, and I think you evolved to a great young man, and now a dad, and I think the biggest honor a person can have is to be a father for a man, and the biggest honor a woman can have is to be a mom, because I think that's a treasured skill set that nobody can understand except you and your perspective of how you're forging your way through life in that. And you got a handsome young man. So I'll give you about 2 minutes. If you got anything else you want to say before I say goodbye to the coach and yourself here.
I was going to say, so with what I do at my job is basically go out, train concrete lifting and house lifting companies all over the United States and Canada and all that place. Go out, teach them how to not be the chuck in the truck guy that pulls up to your house and is going to roof your house. Try to be professional. And so every time that I'm talking to what would be a squad leader or a crew leader of a crew, I always share that story that you told us was, if you don't know what your Joes eat on their eggs in the morning or what they like, then you don't know your Joes. And so I always tell those guys, I'm like, if you don't know if you were to go into the gas station and get something for your buddy and you got to ask, you don't know I'm good enough. So,
wow, that's great.
Yeah, I put that in every training that I do now. So, and I throw your name out there. So one of these days somebody will run it. Are you Sergeant Major Williams? Griffin, sorry.
Well, real quick, I think this might be a good time for me to say this. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but one of the best things about this thing for me is I had this thing 1.5 years, 2 years ago where I said, I think I should do a podcast. And the vet, he messaged me and said, maybe we should do one together. One of the best things that had come out of this for me personally is I've got to spend more time talking with veterans of Iraq War and Afghanistan War, from Alan Bailey to Jerry Jackson to Nick, that I never had a chance to do, and just say thank you. So I want to make sure before I leave, Nick, I want to say not only thank you to you, and I don't think I've said enough, Vet, but thank you to you too for what y'all did. You did for 30, you did for 20, just protect us so I can be a coach or be a guitar player or just be a dumbass. It doesn't matter, but I get to be who I am. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. So we are going to have to go. So I'm going to say real quick from the coach
to the vet.
Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.